Though in all seriousness, a good rest is still our best bet for now. Thinking with an exhausted brain is almost as good as running around in circles. We might as well just throw ourselves at a ghost and be done with it. The local Irish pub may not be the best place to hang around when one hasn't slept. A wink and you're stressed. More often than not, it's loud. Sometimes the music plays by drunkards grate the ears, and the whole place smells like piss on a bad day. All in all, it's the very definition of the last place I'll hang around after a wakeful night. But it's safe. Or as safe as it can be with G's security watching the place. Makes it easy to find help, in case you find yourself in a tight spot. The place being owned by a person I've implicitly placed my trust on provides some semblance of comfort too. Gregor. Bartender G, or just G to his regular patrons. Might be rough around the edges. Sometimes a bit too rough for a man serving drinks behind the counter, but he belongs to the good folk of the city. If there's anyone in this place I can rely on to look after people important to me, it's probably him. He means well. Surprisingly, despite his surly demeanor. Cares to an extent. The people he likely only sees once or twice a week or on a bad day. Not the best job in the world in my opinion, but that's exactly what it is, isn't it? In wine, there is truth. Alcohol in this case. Loosens the tongue, forces one to let his or her guard down. Whatever inhibition someone has, it all flies straight out the window after a few glasses. It's made him observant too. Always has one or two things to say about someone or something. Most of the time it's me, opinionated ass. But God knows how many times I've asked for his help when I've met with a dead end in a case or I'm in trouble. This time's no different. As expected, the moment we show up, he's kind enough to offer us a room at the back of his shop. A single look in my face, I don't even need to say anything, and the next thing we know, he's leading us in. No questions asked. Maybe it's also for this reason why I find myself drifting towards his station hours later, after having gotten that much needed shut-eye. Newly washed drink glasses and tumblers line the counter surface when I enter the room. Behind the bar, G's busy wiping each of them clean, likely prepping it for tonight's use. Briefly, he glances up at me once I claim one of the empty stools and grab a rock glass sitting closest to my elbow, turning it absent-mindedly in my palm just to keep my hands occupied, while my brain's busy, still trying to make sense of everything. Even at a dead hour, with only a few patrons milling about, this place still smells strongly of liquor. Honestly, never really grown fond of it. Regardless of how many times I've made the trip or sat here, on the same spot, just talking with the old man. I've never been fond of drinking in the first place. Yet oddly, it's the nasty odor of the brewery that helps clear the mind this time. Along with the lack of the establishment's usual hubbub and the occasional clink of glasses. Even more bizarre is that, through my lack of words, G doesn't say anything. Although it's clear from the way his mouth is curved into a tight frown that he has questions, a bucket load of them, he wisely keeps it shut. Instead, he simply focuses back on his work. Rinse, wipe, stash away, repeat. Going through the motions with such familiarity, it's almost a trance. Watching his precise movements quietly like this, with these thoughts swimming inside my head, it's easy to lose track of everything around me. One solid lead on this. One possible way to sort this out, but will it work? Especially if my assumptions are correct, and that the reason Zach was here yesterday morning was because of the curse. Something must have happened there for him to see the need to visit the place that morning. What if the couple's fallen victim to the curse, too? It doesn't fall outside the realm of possibility. I've been so biased, not even thinking that they might be in danger as well. But during the open house with Isabella, they might have seen the letter and... fuck.
Stupid, stupid, stupid. Some fucking detective I am.
That's likely the moment when Cooper saw it. If that logic holds, I need to hurry there right away, and if there are answers anywhere, it would be there. It should be there. Where all of this fucking mess started. It's not only my life on the line here, there are others. What happens to us, I won't what happened to us, I won't wish on anyone else, no matter how much I loathe them, or how complicated all of this has suddenly become. The letter, the woman, the mansion, and now there are voices lacing venom inside every crevice in my head, murmurs that jeer, scoff, and deride whenever an opportunity presents itself.
It's because you didn't listen.
It's all your fault. Why won't you believe me?
A reminder of what I failed to do, and of who I failed. At some point, they'll begin to blur together, twining and coiling, every horrid image and memory of her seeking the forefront of my mind. No matter how much I refuse to remember the fear I felt then, to push it as far back as I can, visions come to me like a deluge. And before I know it, before I can drown, another voice pulls me out of it.
You're doing good there, boy.
My hands on his hands on my shoulder, gripping it tightly and giving me a light shake. There's relief in his face when I finally look up at him, although his frown appears more distinct than the concern in his eyes. It's deeper now, marred with worry and agitation. He does let me go when I offer him a small nod, but the furrow between his eyebrows never leaves his face. He always has a knack for reading people, after all. Even someone who can be as closed off or as distant like myself. In all the time I've spent on the force, there's only one other person who's as keen as this guy, old guy, the chief. Funny, and weird to some degree. I've pointed it out to him so many times before how much they look alike, only for the observation to be brushed off with a vehement tone. I've never brought it up again after the third time out of respect for the guy. Whatever it is, it's clear it's something he doesn't want to talk about. Why push though? Why push, right? However, during times like this, it's impossible for the thought not to come up. He even has the glare down pat. Under his wordless scrutiny, I feel like a damn rookie again.
You're looking a bit green. Sure you got plenty of rest back there? You were only out for an hour or two. Wouldn't hurt to try and get some sleep. I'll keep an eye out.
No need. Don't worry about me. I won't be able to get some sleep anyway.
Not with her face still as clear a picture in my head, no.
I heard that from you before. Not buying it. What's the story this time? This as bad as that case with the guy who ate his own eyeball?
I wish it were. Jesus, stop reminding me. I hated that case. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you get a kick out of telling people about it.
It's useful, you know, for blokes who don't know their limits. Sends them right out the door after I start with a description. Or was it the part when the poor schmuck gouged his eyes out? Nasty, awful, icky stuff, and it gets the job done. Like I said, useful. Don't even need to call security these days if I want to kick someone out. Anyway, pretty sure that pales in comparison to whatever this is now. I haven't seen you this stressed out since I closed that case. The one from 10 years ago, with your professor friend.
Abigail and her team weren't able to solve that one, G. No one has been able to. It just went cold.
Same difference. But what do I know, eh? I just serve drinks, listen to people's problems and their whining, then make sure they get home safe afterwards. Thing is, I'm also not blind, kiddo. And you can bet your ass I can tell when a person's about to fall apart.
What? Is this some form of therapy from you? Are you going to offer me free drinks now?
Really, I could use some right now. Something to numb the senses. Well, when has that helped anyone?
In your dreams, kid. Last time someone gave you the hard stuff, your photographer friend had to haul you out of this place almost half naked.
Hey, I can handle my liquor when I put my mind to it.
Not from what I've seen, nope. Besides, you usually avoid drinking. Either way, it's out of the equation. And when booze no longer counts, we just talk. So, talk. It's not like anyone within earshot will care. That chap over there only wants his cricket matches.
I doubt you believe it, G.
I've heard worse stuff. Try me.
You know that mansion down at Anslum?
Yeah, who doesn't? You live in this town long enough, it's impossible not to hear a thing or two about it. Bloody locals.
Well, my friend found a primitive version of a chain letter in there. Now that we've seen it, we're cursed.
A beat passes. For a long moment, she stands there unmoving. His hand stops short of placing the glass he's been wiping prior back to a rack on his left. All while he stares at me with eyes that are nothing short of scrutinizing. Probably assumes I'm joking. Who wouldn't? Not a week ago, I've been put in the same position. Even now, in spite of the things I've heard, it simply won't sink in. Or maybe this is just desperation creeping in. The idea that I may not be able to find a way out of this. Whatever the case is, for people who haven't experienced what I'm going through, this merely sounds like an awful Halloween prank.
It's not a prank.
This must have been what Isabella felt the whole time we made fun of her that day.
This isn't a prank! I saw something!
Now it's too late. We're stuck in a never-ending nightmare, where the only way out might be death. And like I've expected, G's reaction to it, an amused laughter. Booms across the whole pub after a long bout of silence, like I've just told him a particularly funny joke.
Okay. Good one, kid. You don't want to spill. No one's forcing you. Seriously, though. Good one.
Although I want to be angry with him, I can't find it in himself. Can't even muster the energy for a scowl or a glare. Nothing but the taste of my own medicine to temper the annoyance bubbling in me, I suppose. In the end, echoing her words is the best I can do.
It's not a joke.
Yeah, all right. Good luck with that. You're on your own. Here, I thought you didn't have an ounce of humor in that body. Guess I'm wrong.
He shakes his head, lets out another chuckle before returning to his seat. By now, almost half the glasses have been put away. The only one remaining are the smaller kind used for shots and stemming ones for cocktails. Despite being busy with his tasks, his amusement does not entirely disappear from his face. He keeps talking, as if I'm simply another customer he entertains with his stories. But we both know it's more than that. The wistful expression on him says anything.
Man, can't believe you're the same rookie who walked in here almost a decade ago. Too smart for his own good, that boy. He's always been 2 steps ahead of things. Now he's here, sulking.
I must have screwed up somewhere then.
Must have screwed up a lot. For things to suddenly shift like this, for me to become a mere shadow of the person I used to be.
No, I don't think so. This one, screwed up? Not by a mile. It's too early to say. You've still got several years ahead of you, Holmes. Take it easy. But some things change, eh? It has been years, and you were a kid back then. You know, the sort that's a bit unsure, making all the horrible decisions in life he'd eventually be embarrassed to talk about.
You never stopped calling me kid, though.
Well, you still are. It's just that this time, you're sure of who that badge and gun is for. What was it you police types usually say? To protect and serve, yeah?
Magnificent pause follows at its heels. From both of us, as he allows its meaning to sink in and spur something in me. Stirring and feeling both heavy and forceful, but not completely unwelcome. Familiar. But before I can even clarify what he's trying to imply or gather my thoughts on the matter, G turns away to begin his work on the silverwares. He'll need those too. Once more, his patrons come in for lunch. Slow and easy. A sharp contrast with the strained air we've been wading through these past weeks. A fleeting moment, but one I allow myself to relish, if only because of its absence lately. The way things are now, this is almost a gift. So when it ends with a loud shuffling foot from the adjacent hallway, a sigh is all that leaves me. There's no need for me to look up to know who it is. Zach's treads alone are telling there's always a weighted set to them. Steps that are taken with a lady cadence. Like he's always trying to make himself smaller, less conspicuous than he actually is. The place he's unfamiliar with, he also tends to linger, stand awkwardly at the sides, as if he's all too afraid to break something. That or he's waiting for permission of some kind. Either way, he's never been the kind to barrel headfirst into things or forego courtesy despite appearances. Much like how Rebecca's mother Henning belies her fiery temperament, or Isabella's rare displays of maturity appears at odds with her youth. There's been a lot of those in my life, seems. More so from the people I've grown closer to over the years. Walking contradictions we all are. So wonder how we ended up as friends in the first place. But maybe that's also why. To some extent, there's still an understanding in there. In knowing. that no matter how long you've been together, or how familiar you are with a person's habits, or how many lifetimes there might be for you all, one can never fully know a person. Sometimes it works because they're merely close to stay. Sometimes it's as simple as someone extending a hand first for an apology, regardless of every hurtful word said.
Hey. Hey, Ash?
This time I glance at him. Briefly, gauging the mood. Not because reconciliation's an issue for me. Between us, it never will be. But somehow, this is another thing I'm all too afraid to see crumble in front of me. One wrong word. This is going to end in another argument. Might as well stop as early as now. There's another long pause from him, during which he can't seem to figure out what to do with his hands. In the end, he chooses to stuff both of them in his pockets, train his eyes at the now empty space behind the counter. Without our notice, G has slipped back to the kitchen, leaving only the two of us and everything awkward in the open. Still, Zach trudges on, hopeful tone slipping into his voice simply because it's the only thing he knows how to do.
Did you, get any sleep?
It's a start, at least. A stiff one, but a start. The least I can offer in return is the rare honesty.
For a few. A few hours, yeah.
Curt, brisk, not an ounce of friendliness in it. In spite of it, Zach takes it as a sign. Relief washes over him as his shoulders relax and release a tense breath. Soon he's closing the distance he's put between us and flops into the chair on my right.
I think the better question is if the dreams are pleasant. And for the record, no.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I get those a lot.
He shifts in his seat, coughs, drums his fingers on the counter for a short while, then falls silent. That's it, no apologies. Somehow, the short exchange is all we need. The air changes again, much like everything we've known lately. Maybe not for the better, not yet. However, it's less suffocating, with less hostility and resentment. The kind where it's easy to pretend, easy to forget. Not that it's a thing that'll happen anytime soon, but one can dream. In a situation where death might come knocking at any time, it's these little hopes we cling to. It's these little things we wish will happen again. I'm not an optimistic person by nature. Hopefully, but maybe never optimistic. Though, I want to believe there's a way we'll live through this nightmare. It's just funny how it all took this to spur these kind of thoughts from me. Can't even remember the last time something like this occurred to me. For some reason, after seeing one harrowing thing after another, I've simply forgotten.
Why are you suddenly smiling like that?
Huh? Oh, no, I was just thinking about something.
Well, it better be something that'll get us out of this mess.
What makes you think I know how to fix this? Until 2 days ago, I didn't even believe a word you guys have been telling me. Zach, I function better when I'm dealing with homicide cases. Hell, feel free to throw in the usual robbery and missing persons case into the mix. I don't care. Give me a few days and I'll give you a lead. This isn't how I operate. This isn't what I'm good at. For all you know, I might even end up getting us killed. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, the fact that you're frustrated but still trying already means something, Ash. Besides, you don't make that face unless you already have an idea. It can't be any worse than this. Maybe. What's on your mind, Ash?
There really is something about Z-Man. Between Rebecca and him, I tend to share with him things I don't normally say to the other. Unlike Rebecca, who pushes, sometimes with the same tenacity as her moods, Zach has this strange tendency to ease people into telling him what he wants to know. Oftentimes, the question feels so subtle, it catches me off guard, with less force and more forbearance. After all, out of everyone, he's the most grounded. Really, he's like the older brother I never had. The kind you can depend on when things go sour. The kind you tell things to simply because he'll listen. without forcing his own opinions on you.
We still have one more lead we haven't checked. I'm gonna look into it tonight.
It doesn't take him long to put two and two together, and his calm expression abruptly dissolves to worry the second he realizes what I mean. We've already examined the letter, read through piles of documents. There's really only one we haven't given a once-over. The mansion. Of course, Zach may not be the kind to push, but that doesn't mean he agrees with everything that comes out of my mouth. In his way of keeping me steady and on my feet throughout the year.
Hold on, didn't you tell me not to go in there? Whatever happened to stay away from Luke Wright?
You're an unarmed civilian, Zach.
And so?
So, I want you to stay here and keep yourself safe. I probably won't take too long, but I don't know what might happen. I'm not even sure if I'll find something in there. G will keep an eye on you guys. If you need anything, that woman shows up, just holler. He'll help out, no questions asked. You don't even need to explain anything.
He's not willing to concede. Not for the manner he grips his knees, or the rigid set of his jaw.
I'm going with you. You can't go in there alone, Ash. I heard something. The morning I was there, I heard someone scream, and then there was a woman crying, and I don't know what's going on inside that mansion, but I am telling you, you shouldn't face whatever's inside alone.
Before I can stop myself, a heavy breath escapes from my mouth. It's one of those times again where Zach means well, but he completely misses the point I'm trying to make. When things take a turn for the worse, when he gets in a mood like this, he's almost as headstrong as Isabella. Ooh, this is... I don't want to say you'll only get in the way, because that just feels rude. I'm gonna try this one and see. There are only two ways this will end. Okay, good. I agree with him and take him with me, or agree with him and drop the idea altogether. Neither appeals more than the other, especially when we're all desperate for answers and a way out. If all it'll take is a little more honesty to make him drop this harebrained idea, so be it.
Look, man. Bro. Z-Man. Zach. Zachary, listen. I know you only want to help.
Like hell! This ain't just about helping, Ashton! You're throwing yourself in the thick of it, on your own!
Holy shit! That was not the reaction I was expecting.
Was your fall last night really that bad? Did you hit your head hard? I honestly can't tell if you've gone stupid or just plain suicidal.
My head's okay, Zach. But it won't stay that way if we don't do anything about this. Someone has to.
Seriously, this is already a desperate move. The longer we dally, the faster we're losing our options. Do we even have one? Looking back at this whole business with the ghost seems perfectly set up to drive us into a corner. Either until we lose our minds or she gets us. It's starting to feel as if there isn't an escape. We've already become her playthings in the second Isabella found that letter. That our lives are in her hands takes me off big time. But the idea of watching the people I care about die helplessly, more so. They're much safer here than with me. It's a selfish thought, I know. Born out of fear. So in case things go awry, the very last thing I want to happen is for Zach to take the fall with me. I've already made enough mistakes.
And that means it's just you.
Just me.
Suddenly he clams up. Although his actions, the restless shift of his shoulders, his mouth pressing close in a tight line, and how he starts off again in a quiet note. It all gives away his real thoughts, long before two words have ever made it out of his mouth.
I'm sure you already know about this. Maybe this is you trying to make amends, or whatever. I don't know. You're making your own decisions here. But if something happens to you, it'll be just that. You'll just be another dead body out there. Please, don't do something like this.
Don't worry. I'm not stupid enough to get myself killed. I just want things to go back to normal, Zach.
Another dead air follows at the heels of that one admission. The meaning of my words. Too heavy, too striking. It stuns us into another lull. Optimism aside, we're both aware that's impossible. We're going to have to deal with the trauma right after. There'll be images, the voices whispering inside of our head, the foreboding feeling, the stench of blood, gore, and death trailing after us. We may survive this, but those things, they'll remain in us for a long time. One does not survive something like this without it leaving something in you. Just the mere thought of what might come right after makes me dread it. What this has changed in all of us. But I suppose that outcome is more acceptable. The lesser of two evils.
3 hours.
My head snaps up and I turn to him, puzzled. He's staring at his hands with a thoughtful expression, brows furrowed, deep concentration. Like he's trying to choose the right words to convey what he's going to say.
3 hours? For what?
That's more than enough time to go there, to check things, like you said, and travel back here. If you don't show up here beyond that, I'm going after you.
From his tone, it sounds almost like a warning. I'm sure it's not his intention. But hearing something like that from a person like Zach, I can't help but chuckle and throw in a jibe, despite how dire things are. Just like the old times.
Make that 4.
What? You said you're just gonna check things. Why would you even need that long?
Speed limit? I'm a ranked law enforcement officer, Zach. I'm supposed to set an example.
Speed limit. Plus, he'll have to convince fucking Luke and Hannah to get out of the house.
I so wanna punch you right now.
Of course, Zach never carries it out. Light up moments like this, it's just how he is. How we are. Unfortunately, Ju chooses the next moment to show up. He slams the flat of his palm on the counter and shoots us both a stern look. Although his tone's nothing short of jovial, the disapproval clear in it. He obviously misunderstands the situation.
Boys, drummer's nice and all. I used to watch these bloody god-awful afternoon serials with one of my brothers many, many years ago. But listen, I am not having one in my pub, all right? You two want to fight? Go out.
Pregnant pause. Then without any preamble, Zach and I are both snickering and G's glowering melts into confusion. When we both show no signs of stopping, he simply shakes his head and turns away. I'd like to think it's better this way. Better that we part on light terms, so Zach won't have to see every little insecurity, every little doubt in me right now. He's seen enough. This is the last thing I want him to glimpse, is another display of weakness. Not when he still stares at me with the same unerring confidence in his eyes. When our mirth dies down, before anything else can be said, before I change my mind, I step away from them, giving Zach's shoulder a quick few pats, mumbling a lame excuse about taking another short nap under my breath. Although, burning the stray thought that flashes fleetingly in my head, Zach has seen me at my lowest plenty of times. Why does all of it matter now? Sun hangs lower when I stumble back into consciousness and drag myself downstairs. Around this time, patrons usually start to trickle into the main lounge until it reaches a peak around midnight. Today, however, it remains thin. But considering the day it isn't too worrisome for the kind of business G runs. He's always complained about the lack of a decent crowd on a weak start. Although he doesn't really begrudge his customers for it. No one wants to start the week with a bad case of a hangover, after all, even him. Which makes the concerned look he gives me come off a bit too odd. The kind of danger we're in, this swiftly puts me on edge, even before sleep completely fades from my mind.
Something wrong, G?
G hums, but there's an undertone of annoyance in it despite his casual and open movements. And only after he finishes wiping a tumbler and carefully settles it face down on the table does he give me an answer. The way he stares back at me honestly makes me squirm. Feels like I'm being stared down by my elementary school teacher for sleeping in class again.
Nothing much. Monday's still a slow day for this place. But you might want to check on your friends, kid. Looks like one of them woke up on the wrong side of the bed while you were out.
Another question forms in my head along with a small confused frown. Though, before a single syllable slips past my mouth, Rebecca's irate voice rings out from some part of the main lounge. From the sound of it, it appears woke up on the wrong side of the bed is a complete understatement.
Alone? You know we can't just go in there. But we don't have any other choice, Becca! There's really no other way. We have to go there. If you'll just... Isabella, no.
That does not sound comforting. Once Rebecca assumes that kind of tone in an argument with Isabella, it usually ends with one of them walking out or both giving the other the silent treatment. Oh, Lord. Lasts for about a week at most, if it's really bad, which really isn't what we need right now. I've hoped the bad blood from this morning will simply blow over after all of us have gotten a decent rest. Should have expected things wouldn't be the same with them as it was with Zach and I. Turns out sleep isn't just what some of us need. Even G appears to understand it. In spite of his efforts to look at as unconcerned as possible, there's a tense set on his shoulders. A nervous edge lingers in his eyes, as it occasionally flickers over where Rebecca and Isabella's voices are coming from. He doesn't want to deal with this, especially at the start of another busy week. Neither do I. Things have worked out well between them before, without Zach or I meddling. But the imploring gaze G directs at me leaves me with no other choice. It almost feels like he's guilting me into doing something about it. I hate that it's working.
You know how I run this pub, kid. No fist fights, no cat fights, only good booze, bad puns, and off-key singing. Go fix it before it blows up in your faces. I'd hate to throw two girls out of this place over a petty argument.
It's probably not as petty as Rebecca already shouting like that, but I give him a nod nevertheless.
Sorry about this, G.
He hums something under his breath for an answer and waves me off, turning away and returning to his work without another word. Even with the lack of a sizable crowd, he likes to keep busy. We're the same in that regard. Can't remain still, always have to stay moving, doing something, thinking, whatever keeps the brain at work. I leave him to it shortly after. Rebecca's voice rings out once again, followed by Isabella's. But part of me wants to thank him for all the trouble he has taken for people he barely even knows. Once this is over, I should probably find some way. In the meantime, I have this immediate problem to fix. Gotta get to this before it turns into a shitstorm both of them will regret. And I know both of them will. For all of Isabella's complaints about Rebecca's bossy attitude, or how annoying Rebecca sometimes finds the other's childlike demeanor, it's a friendship they both cherish in their own way. Rebecca's already on her feet when I spot them in an almost deserted area of the pub. I'm willing to bet my entire life savings that people are staying away only because of the storm brewing. Rebecca can have quite the mood when she's crossed. I can't speak for Isabella. I rarely ever see her seething. But from what I've heard, it can be very unpleasant. The way she's glaring at the redhead from her seat, regardless of how much the other woman towers over her right now, already says everything. Empty plates have been left neatly piled on one corner of the table they occupy. Conversation that turned sour sometime after a late lunch then. Good thing they're already done and nothing's left to be spilled. Because in the next moment, before I can approach and intervene, Rebecca slams the palm on her palm on the table. Sends the silverware clinking sharply against the surface. Isabella flinches momentarily. We both do. Though she shows no indication of surrendering in the face of Rebecca's temper. Everything escalates from there.
You've already gotten us in enough trouble because of this let a ghost everything.
Oh my god, this again? Really?
You're blaming me again. And you can't expect everyone to fix your mess. You keep on putting the blame on me, but you're the one who didn't listen. All of you. If you just listened in the first place, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But you're too busy acting like you know what's best for everyone, when in fact you're the one who's being selfish. I'm the one who's selfish, yet you're still going to do what you want anyway, even if the people around you are already beside themselves with worry. This is how you've always acted since we met, and I'm tired of it. Sometimes I wish you never even came here, because all you've given us is a headache.
That's a low blow, Becca.
You know why I had to come here. My dad. Your dad has nothing to do with this. It has always been you and your whiny, careless self that has always been the problem.
Maybe I should have stepped in earlier. Maybe I should have said something the moment Rebecca slammed the flat of her hand on the table or the second I've entered the area. Either way, it's too late to act. Harsh words have already been hurled between the two. Words are more cutting than a blade, each and every one of them digging a wound too deep in the person they've been aimed at. For a long time, Isabella sits there in silence while Rebecca stands unmoving, arms crossed and breathing heavily. Despite the lack of words between them, they're both vibrating with anger, refusing to meet the other's eyes. Ever so slowly, the atmosphere in the room turns thick and smothering. A strained air no one in the immediate vicinity, including me, dares to break. Until the ones at the center does it. Rebecca definitely won't. And at some point in our friendship, she's grown to become a woman firm with her opinions. She's never going to back down from this, not when she knows she has a point. Isabella, on the other hand, there's always been a certain stubbornness in her. As frustrating as it is to see sometimes, it's what's gotten her through life's hardships, perhaps even the only thing that has. When you have nothing else, people tend to cling on to what they have within themselves instead. But she also knows when to withdraw, when a struggle turns useless. A kind of awareness almost second nature to her. When enough is enough, Isabella abruptly stands and marches towards the exit. In fast, rigid steps, away from the hurt and painful words they've let fly earlier. Okay, I'm gonna save here real quick, because I want to see something real quick. She bumps into me in her haste, the impact nearly knocking her off her feet. Instinct kicks in at the last moment, and I reach up for her, grabbing her arm in a steadying grip. Surprise splits across her face, an expression mirrored by Rebecca behind her. Neither of them had noticed me. However, that doesn't mean I won't have things to say about it. Okay, so I don't agree with Rebecca because she's just angry and lashing out. And I absolutely do not agree with her 100%. I am, however, going to agree with her here just because I want to see what it actually shows, like how it affects the friendship thing here. So I'm going to agree with Rebecca here.
Okay.
Let go, Ashton.
Rebecca has a point, though.
I know, Ash. I just thought we'd find something in there. That if I go back, we'll get the answers we need. I found the letter there, so maybe, right?
It's not that I don't agree with her. Hell, I've been considering the same thing. It's the only lead we have, after all. But Rebecca also has a point I will always agree with, no matter how desperate I am. It's not going to be a simple walk in the park. Who knows what we might find in there? If she comes with me, I won't be able to guarantee her safety. She'll be in even greater danger. Hence, alone. Exactly as I've told Zach. If there's a need to go back to that accursed place, I'm doing it on my own. Whether or not the rest of them agree with this plan is inconsequential. Their well-being is my top priority, and I'm not just about to drag them in there with me. So I tell her as much, despite the determination and desperation in her eyes. Anything to keep her safe.
Forget it, Belle. You're not going back to that mansion.
But Ash, what about...
This isn't up for debate. Do you really think they'll just let you in? Do you really think they'll give a damn if you walk in there carrying that stupid letter of all things?
No, but there has to be something we can tell them.
Look, I really can't let you do that, Belle.
Ash, the people living in that place now, they were with me during the open house. They have to know. They're in as much trouble as we are.
I know, but it's risky. It's dangerous. We don't know what you might find in there. Or if you'll even find anything. What if you see her again? What if she goes after you? What are you going to do? For all we know, it might be a dead end. It's not worth it. To put yourself in harm's way like that.
Isabella offers no response. Not even a form of resistance. No further argument. Like I've come to expect from her. Uncharacteristic. Just a silence that stretches far too thin. Till the air in the whole room grows heavy. She merely averts her gaze and hastily wipes the tears off her face. Like she only noticed them in that moment. Then without another word or ever meeting my eyes again, she gently brushes away my hand and runs off, leaving an awkward hush in her wake. Rebecca soon slumps on the chair Isabella has just left gingerly reaching up to press the bridge of her nose and breathing out a ragged exhale. Arguments like this have always drained both her patience and energy, usually more than her rowdy students do, despite being no stranger to it. In the quietness of the room, I find myself drifting towards her and taking the empty seat next to her. Shortly, she leans her shoulders to mine, like she used to all those years ago, back when all that mattered to us were grades and what kind of trouble we'd be in the next weekend. No curse, no letter, no ghosts. Just us, and whenever our imagination will take us.
How are you holding up?
Barely, but I'll be fine. It's probably just this curse thing getting to me.
That bad, huh?
Excuse me, you're stuck in this nightmare too. And then there's Isabella just being frustrating.
You don't mean that.
She makes a face, having been caught in her lie before allowing a small smile to replace it.
Yeah, you're right. I don't. She might act like that, but in the end, she's still my best friend. I should probably apologize later.
Your fights never did last long.
They're always so petty these days. I just can't wait for this whole thing to be over. That way we can go back to how everything used to be.
You know that's impossible.
The truth. And we both falter into silence in the face of it. Her mouth opens briefly, and I assume she's about to argue her opinion about it. Maybe say something contrary to it. But eventually she simply nods, breathes out, and relaxes her rigid posture. A rare occurrence when she almost always has something on her mind. Seeing it, a smile spreads across my face, knowing and perhaps a little pleased. It's one thing to know of change. Watching it play out in front of me is an entirely different matter. In that one exchange, I've caught a short, clear glimpse of what has shifted, of what's inevitable. So much has changed throughout the years. I will never be the same person. We will never be the same people we once were. And perhaps it's for the better. Rebecca notices soon enough, like she always does. Whatever she sees in my face startles her, causing her to jerk away.
Why are you staring at me like that?
Nothing. Don't mind me.
I know that look, Ashton Frey. That's definitely not a nothing. You wouldn't be wearing that expression if you didn't have something on your mind.
Really? It's nothing. It's just that when we were kids, you weren't really the kind of person who spoke her mind. Someone else always had to stand up for you. You've changed a lot, Becca.
What did you expect? It's been, what, 17, 18 years?
What I'm trying to say is, I think I like this version of you more.
The beat.
Except when you're mad, and you're yelling, and you're glaring daggers at everyone. You're pretty scary, you know.
Well, don't say that so casually. Also, if you're just going to complain, we might as well just end this talk right now.
See what I mean? Even Z-Man's scared of you. I'd bet my entire salary on it.
She swats at my arm. The gesture light and familiar causes us both to burst into peals of laughter afterwards. When was the last time we shared something like this? Can't even remember. It's nice, though. To have another conversation like this, to sit side by side, simply enjoying each other's company. I'm not very fond of looking back into the past. Most of it means having to remember unpleasant things for me. Sometimes, coiled around the bad, there are good ones. And Rebecca's here for most of it. Things may change, but our friendship is one thing I will hold dear. We may meet new people throughout our lives, but that doesn't mean I won't care for her any less. Which makes this whole business with the letter even more urgent. While Rebecca's right, Isabella's reasoning also makes sense. Hell, I've been considering the same thing. It's the only lead we have, after all. With what's at stake, I can't let this curse win. If such a thing even makes sense when dealing with the supernatural. Tonight, by any means, I need to go back to that accursed place. Alone. Because who knows what we might find there. Whether or not the rest of them agree with this plan is inconsequential. Their well-being is my top priority, and I'm not just about to drag them in there with me. My apprehension must have been quite obvious in my face. In a sudden motion, Rebecca reaches out and taps my arm. Although she does it gently, it startles me, nevertheless. And it's enough to put a worried look on her face. For a moment, she studies my face, eyes scrutinizing, searching. But before I can even avert my gaze, keep her from getting a read on me, she straightens. Her worry abruptly fades into a look of disapproval.
You have a plan in mind, don't you?
It's a simple yes or no question. I can easily lie, yet her tone completely belies everything her words mean. May as well tell her everything. When all is said and done, she's still one of the few people I trust. However, every vein in my body knows she'll be the first one to disagree, put her foot down and stop me. And when she does, who else will be left to fix this? Zach? Isabella? Her? I do understand her concerns, but there are times when they are misplaced. This complication isn't what I need at the moment. But what am I supposed to say? What is she expecting to hear from me? What answer will satisfy her? She certainly appears like she's hoping for more than a yes or no, for an answer I can't give at the moment. What else then?
I need to head off somewhere tonight.
Big answer. That's all I can offer. And hopefully this will be enough. It's not an outright lie, but that, though, doesn't make me feel any less awful about it. It's worse than you know she's asking now because she's worried. Part of me wants to tell her. Admit that Isabella's suggestion is exactly what I'm planning tonight. What good will it do, though? I've already told Zach one person's enough. Hell, simply letting someone in on the plan makes me iffy. Broadening that circle and revealing too much would just cause another pointless concern. Someone has to be aware, at least of where I'm heading off to in case things don't pan out. Expect the worst, even if I've only intended to do a quick survey of the place. In my own words, risky. Rebecca doesn't need to know the kind of danger I might be throwing myself in tonight. She should prioritize herself and her own safety first before others. But it's never that easy with her, is it?
Am I allowed to ask questions this time?
You're asking one right now, aren't you?
It's a serious question, Ashton. Yes or no?
You can, but I can't promise I'll answer them.
That's a nice way of saying no. You might as well just tell me to shut up.
You know I don't mean it like that.
Is there something I can do at least?
For an instant, I hesitate, pausing, bumbling for an answer. It's more difficult with her, because all this time she still looks at me as if I'm the same kid from years ago. Who she depended on when she has yet to find herself. Who she turned to for answers despite my lack of them. Makes me all the more afraid to fuck up this time. And in case I do, she's the very last person I want to be with. Getting her into trouble, getting her killed is not how I want to repay the friendship she has so generously offered after all these years. My friends are not supposed to be the ones taking the repercussions of my mistakes. Those are of my own doing, of my own responsibility. Of fear. A heavy weight on my shoulders they shouldn't be dragged into carrying. However, if there's one thing I can trust her with.
Stay safe. Keep the others safe. Watch over them while I'm out there. Make sure no one does anything stupid. You're good with that kind of stuff.
I'm a high school teacher, Ash. Not anyone's babysitter.
A grimace is on her face, but I know she'll do it. Even without me asking for it. She cares more than anyone. More than what her fiery temper expresses. And it eases something in me knowing the others will have someone like her here. Sure enough, after a stretch of silence, she eventually nods. She does not entirely agree with this plan. It's in the distant look in her face, but she's willing to trust me on this. For now, that's enough. Either way, it's best that we simply leave things here for now. There's already an understanding, albeit something we both don't agree with. No need to push it further. With a light, reassuring squeeze on her shoulder, I stand up as soon as footsteps shuffle from the next room, cadence slow and hesitant. Shortly, Isabella comes into view, clutching her hands firmly in front of her and sporting the same uncertainty in her face. She casts me a cursory look and shifts a nervous one to Rebecca, who studies her with a curious gleam in her eyes. Their fights never did last long.
Becca, are you free? Am I interrupting something? If it's okay, can we talk?
Her interruption could not have come sooner, and I'm all the more grateful for it. Whatever kind of friendship I share with the two, this remains something for only the two of them, much like my own with Zach. I'm the outsider, They don't need me here. I'm all the reason I need. Muttering an excuse and flashing Rebecca a quick knowing smile, I beat a hasty exit out of the main lounge and leave them to mend things on their own. Before Rebecca could say what's on her mind. Before the last frustrated glare she directs my way forces me to change my mind. It's another lasting image that firmly etches itself in my memory. One that spurs the conscience, among other things. I just hope I won't regret what I've chosen for myself tonight. Galloway Shaw's Monday night crowd, although small and barely occupies a quarter of the whole pub, provides ample enough cover for anyone who wishes to leave the place unnoticed. Just exactly what I need tonight. With the lively music and chatter, slipping out, mostly unseen, becomes a piece of cake. Without much trouble, soon enough I find myself standing outside, under the chilly Luxborn night. A gust of wind picks up shortly after I step out, carrying the telltale smell of an impending rain. I'll give it about an hour or two before it starts. From the look of it, though, tonight will be another downpour, maybe even stronger than the one we had this morning. On instinct, I hunch further into my jacket, hugging its thick material closer to my body while I weave my way through the lines of empty cars in the parking lot. The letter crinkles in my pocket with each step I take, though I pay it no mind as I hurry towards my car. I've nicked it minutes ago from Isabella's belongings on my way out. If this is all connected, I need this damn piece of paper with me. However ridiculous it sounds, I'm quite sure it won't be missed. But I can't waste time here and wait for her to find out, can I? 4 hours is all I'm giving myself to get this done. 3, if I'm inclined to go by the rules Z-Man set, but when have I ever? Regardless of how generous that is, each second's just as important as the next. So I hurry. One footstep over the other, echoing as I make a beeline for my car. But as with every plan, problems crop up at the last second. It's practically a universal rule. And it does. In the form of a lone figure waiting for me next to my car. Rebecca turns just as I near, the corners of her mouth twitching up into a wry smile. She offers no greeting except for a slight tilt of her head. Even as my pace slows and I look at her with all the unvoiced questions in my eyes, she remains wordless, merely throwing her head back and shifting her attention up at the starless night when I come to stand beside her. Another gust of wind blows as she breathes out a sigh, weary, thick, with something close to resignation. The breeze carries all of it away, while she hugs her arms closer to herself to keep warm, which raises the question of why she's out there. The air is already heavy with the promise of rain. With clouds obscuring the view, there's really nothing left to look at but a dark blanket of nothingness. Still, she stands here as if she's intentionally waiting for something to fall. Or that, or she's here for some other reason. But before I can voice a single word, express disapproval of any kind, she raises a halting hand at me, sharply cutting off the rest of my question.
I'm not here to stop you. Wherever it is you're planning to go off tonight, I won't be able to anyway. You look like you've already made up your mind.
Go back inside. It's going to rain soon. It'll probably be even heavier than the downpour we had this morning. You wouldn't want to be caught in it.
I will, in a moment. I just want to stay out here a bit for some air, away from the noise inside. Everything's been so chaotic these days. This little break is nice. Getting out of this mess would definitely be better, but hey, you take what you can get, right?
It'll be over soon.
Confidence in my own words surprises even me. How do I know? Why am I so sure? When in truth, what I'm about to do is a last-ditch effort. If this fails, if I don't find anything, we're back to square one. It's the last lead I have. After this, we have nothing else to go off from. Regardless, it seems to amuse her, and her laughter soon sounds above the murmur of the distinct traffic and the light draft sweeping around us.
How I wish. I'll be content as long as she stops showing up in my mind whenever I close my eyes.
I think that may take some time. The brain doesn't easily forget trauma.
I can try. But, you know, it also did a lot to us.
Tell me about it. The back of my head's still smarting from my fall last night.
Not that kind. I'm talking about us. As people. I hate to admit it, but this whole deal with the ghost, with the curse, it also brought out an ugly side to us. To all of us. And it made me realize plenty of things. About myself, about us.
Rebecca trails off. Suddenly, a pensive expression spreads across her face. I've seen it countless of times before. And every time I see it on her, it's usually followed by a memory. A silly story, or even something embarrassing I've said in childhood. Unlike me, who will pretty much forget, she remembers each of them so easily. And after a short bout of silence, when she smiles, I know this is one of those times again.
Do you remember that one time, back in secondary?
Which one? We did a lot of dumb things back then. Well, I did, but you get the point.
Mandy.
I thought you still don't like her. Don't tell me you've kept in contact with her. Are you guys friends now or something?
Oh no. We do see each other sometimes. On the way to work or when I go out for lunch, but it's nothing like that. We're not friends. Not in this lifetime. I don't think so. I don't think we'll ever get along, but if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't even be friends, yeah? You stood up for me that day. And from then on, things have changed.
She makes it sound like I'm sort of hero. Mandy was in the wrong. Of course I'll defend her. If no one's going to stand up for her, who else would? Chances are it would have escalated, and who knows? Maybe she would have stopped going to school or transferred. Any decent human being with an ounce of sense should know better. I acted because I know what I'm doing is what's right. It's as simple as that. Yet, she smiles as if it's worth more than that. A fondness that goes beyond nostalgia.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, this time, I don't want this to go unsaid. You know, just in case something happens. Ash, I've always been in love with you.
She says it so plainly, holding my gaze and in a voice too frank that her admission stuns me into silence. Like the wind has suddenly been knocked out of me in one fell swoop. No words will form, not even a single coherent thought, as the meaning of her words bear down on me. Nevertheless, she continues, desperate to express everything she has kept to herself all these years. This is what fondness is. Why, for her, it weighs heavily than any feelings of nostalgia can carry.
Since that time in secondary, since I made that promise to never leave, I've always truly loved you.
Afterwards, there's relief. A weight suddenly lifted from her shoulders after so long. She closes her eyes and lets out a breath. When she looks back at me, though, there's nothing but hope in them. Eyes that are searching for an answer. Facing the sincerity behind her words, I find myself grasping, scrambling for the words. Because as flattering as this is, it has simply never occurred to me that she'll ever hold affections like this for me. Even when we spent so many years alongside each other. Hell, we practically grew up together, and not once did it cross my mind. I do appreciate her presence in my life. I'm more than glad that she stuck with me even through the toughest moments. Even during the times when she finds me difficult or aggravating, but to think there's more to it. Rebecca's a beautiful woman, all right. Anyone with a working eye can easily see that. Anyone will appreciate becoming the object of her affections. However, more than that, she's also a close, important friend to me.
Rebecca, I
draw in a breath, ragged, unsure, uncertain how and which words to put together. Afraid they'll hurt or ruin this, whatever this friendship has become all of a sudden. Though before I can even string two phrases together, she closes the distance between us, grabs a fistful of my shirt, and pulls me down. Next thing I know, her mouth's on mine, warm yet unyielding. Just like the person who owns them, who presses herself against me almost desperately, longing for the love she has held on to for so long. Even in the gesture as intimate as this, Rebecca's character shows, unintentional or otherwise. Fierce, bold, demanding. A storm on her own. And soon I find myself being drawn into it. Into her. nothing gentle about her kiss, far from it. It's urgent. It's frantic. Brimming with every pent-up emotion she has had. Years and years of it. Maybe in another time it will be, when death's not looming over us. But for the moment, right before a wholly different storm brewing, we both cling to it. Perhaps because it's the only thing tethering us both from losing to this madness. Welp! Smiles on her face when we part later. Kinder than every single one I've seen from her so far. It's nice to see it on her. Suits her more than the glares or the frowns. But at the same time, it only serves to baffle me. When I moved to open my mouth to say anything, even though I've yet to find the right words, she lifts a hand to my mouth and silences me.
You don't have to answer me.
Yeah, but you should... I should...
No, I mean, not right now.
Okay, now I'm really confused. One moment you're saying you've been in love with me since secondary, now you're telling me to shut up?
If you want to interpret it like that, all right.
No, really. Some explanation would be nice, Becca. Because a lot of things are going on right now, and I'm afraid I can't catch up. Especially with this curveball you just threw.
It means what it means, Ashton. It's not that I don't want to hear it, but you said it yourself. A lot of things are going on right now. Our lives are still in danger. There's still the curse. There's still the ghost.
Sorry about that, in the background. That was an alarm.
I've waited this long to tell you. I could wait a little more. We'll talk once this is over. Once everything's back to normal again and we don't have to worry about other things.
I'm sorry, Becca.
I'm not even sure what I'm apologizing for. Ever stuck in this nightmare? Or because I'm somehow holding myself responsible for having no idea how she felt until she has said it to my face? Regardless, she continues to smile through it all.
It's not your fault. Don't say that. I'm the one who should apologize. Since I suddenly sprung this up on you when you have other things to do, I just thought I should let you know. Anyway, thanks for hearing me out. I won't keep you long. I know you have things to do. Just promise me you'll be careful, all right?
She doesn't wait for an answer. Instead, she gives me a push, with a force only heavy enough to throw me off balance. Caught unawares by the gesture, for a few moments, I fight for purchase against my car's trunk, bracing my hands on its smooth surface. When I look up, with a string of reprimands ready at the tip of my tongue, Rebecca's already halfway through the parking lot. There's a small skip to her steps, while the breeze carries the light tune she's whistling. On a whim, I let its notes be the last thing I commit to memory before slipping inside my car and driving off. Sounds like a new beginning. More than anything. Another reason to be optimistic. Within 10 minutes, I'm driving out of Luxporn, heading straight for Anslem Village. In the distant, flashes of lightning light up in the horizon, white and sharp against the black curtain of the night. Thunder threatens with a rumble. Seconds later, echoing long across the sky. And with one last roar, the skies open in earnest. The rain falls in fast, steady sheets, creating shallow puddles in the dirt path, drenching everything the eye can reach. Despite having grown up in this city, I still despise the rain. Living here doesn't mean I have to like it. Lucky me, I reached the mansion before the downpour has turned torrential. The long slog from Anslem Village by foot has already been made difficult by the light drizzle and biting winds buffeting against my body every few seconds. By the time I found cover under the trees lining the vicinity of the mansion, my shoulders are already drenched. My hair is also sticking against my skin and out of every possible direction. Thankfully, the letter, taser, and gun I brought with me has remained relatively dry. That's the most important thing. However, those are the least of my problems at the moment. Sometime after the housewarming party scumbag, Wright, has suddenly grown a brain and tightened the security around the mansion. Guard now is stationed in every possible entry point. Main entryway, the back door leading to the kitchens. Hell, it's almost a miracle no one spotted me once I entered the property. Although that's probably because I've kept close to the forest. While I can always create a clever way for myself under this deluge, it'd be difficult to do so without making much noise or leaving tracks.
I don't really have the luxury either, do I?
Considering how off this place feels since I've stepped into the property and this mansion came into view, every light is off. Even with the security personnel on patrol outside, the whole house itself feels empty, eerie, too quiet. Oops. Normally, I'll pass it off as some kind of a power outage because of the storm. It's not a far-off conclusion when this place is almost in the middle of nowhere. However, something just feels off.
Something happened here.
Or about to. It's the sole reason why I haven't done anything yet. Simply observing, watching, listening for anything I might be pressed for time. I might be pressed for time, but I'm not a careless idiot. Although I need a way in. Desperately so. Moving without thinking will only endanger me. There's so many unknown variables and what we're dealing with. I also have to act on the assumption that someone is always in danger, especially in this place. Can't act impetuously. As much as I hate Wright, I'm not about to cause his death because of one thoughtless action. If there's a place he deserves it to be at, it's in the prison, not a morgue. So when a hoarse, painful sob suddenly rings out above the loud pitter-patter of the rain, only then do I stir. A woman. Perhaps a servant? Or worse, Hannah Wright. It's coming from the forest? Just right up ahead, in fact. Not too far from the house. Regardless, I give the place a quick, wary glance before following the noise. Carefully, keeping to the shadows, one cautious step after another. Louder and louder it goes as I near. Until it abruptly turns into a loud, desperate, anguished cry. I break into a run. One nervous hand ready on the gun holstered at my hip, and the other raised for balance as I scurry across the dense understory. Dead leaves crunch under my shoes, but I pay it no mind. There's only the voice, the woman, and nothing. Abruptly, it all stops, and I'm met with a sudden hush. Blank. Empty. Almost deafening in its stillness, even with my labored breathing and pounding heartbeats against my ears. Behind me, another branch creaks and...
Help me.
Dread surges within me while I spin around and take a hard step back, ignoring the chilly pinpricks crawling at the back of my neck. But before I can even meet her eyes, the world unexpectedly pitches sideways, tilting. And tilting till the ground beneath me finally crumbles. My hands fight for purchase, only to meet air. By then, it's too late. My foot slips further, and the rest of my body follows. Dark spots blur the edge of my vision. Black tendrils twist and coil around my limbs. Soft footfalls echo from the far distance, scurrying, scampering, moving in an odd rhythm with the sharp, piercing notes of her laughter. But more than that are the voices, lacing venom inside every crevice in my head. Murmurs that jeer, scoff, and deride. Over. It's because you didn't listen. And over. It's all your fault. And over again. Why won't you believe me? A reminder of what I failed to do and who I failed. What I'm trying to desperately fix. The scream threatens to burst, but my throat closes off. Ever so slowly, a chill seeps into every nerve in my body, washing away every sensation in me apart from one. There's only fear. Once again, her laughter echoes, a sound both bitter and unforgiving. It is the last thing I hear before she reaches for me. The ground trembles. The world slows to a stop. Half darkness greets me when my eyes finally snap open. the soft patter of dripping water somewhere spurring my consciousness further. For a few short moments, I remained still, blinking away the dizziness, allowing my vision to adjust to the lack of light and my breathing to even out first before pushing myself up on one arm and attempting to stand. Turning alone is a struggle on its own. An inch of movement sends a stab of sharp pain right up my arms and my back, giving me another pause.
Shit. I hope I didn't break anything. Fuck.
There doesn't seem to be an injury or a major fracture, although the whole of my back does feel sore and raw. Probably from where I've skidded down prior to landing myself here. A comforting thought. Second attempt comes easier later, though no less painful. And by the time I'm back up on my feet, the exertion has left me gasping in short, shallow breaths and leaning heavily on the wall nearest to me. Behind me, a light draft blows in from where I've fallen in, coming in short, sharp bursts into what's apparently an underground tunnel, and brings in the fresh, earthly smell of rain from the topside. Regardless, it fails to mask the old, musty scent of the place. A mixture of mold, mildew, dust, grease, and something distinctly foul, like death. More worrisome than the putrid, festering smell, however, are the cells that line both sides of the tunnel. Under the dim light, I can barely make out what's inside some of them. But I already have a few ideas, all of which I refuse to delve into at the moment. Knowing how long this mansion has stood. Somehow, no matter how unexpected finding the existence of this place is, it isn't too surprising.
I wonder if Scumbag knows about this.
Probably not, unless he's also the kind of person who takes joy in inflicting this kind of suffering on others. I don't really think so. He's rotten to the core, but not that rotten. He'll probably balk at this, move out at the first opportunity, and have it demolished. The very idea of what has occurred in this place years ago makes me reel as well. I've known long ago places like this tend to hold secrets. This, though, if this is just the tip of the iceberg, I fear what I may discover in the mansion itself and the tale behind that fucking letter. But fear is inconsequential, and unpleasant as the sight of this is. This place might also be the only way for me to get inside unnoticed. Sighing and taking one last gulp of clean air, I push away from the wall and delve deeper into the passage.
Let's just hope it'll be smooth sailing from here on.
Turns out that alone is too much to ask for this early. No 20 paces into it, another sound abruptly rises above my footfalls, rebounding off the hollow walls and echoing inaudibly across the whole span of the tunnel before fading away just as swiftly as it rang. I pause, nevertheless, straining my ears for more of it, while I gradually move my hand to my side, slow and steady until the tip of my fingers brush off the gun's handle. Although cold against my skin, it's the closest thing I have to comfort at the moment. For a long minute, I wait, holding my breath, watching every form, edge, and shadow at the corner of my vision for any movement. After a heartbeat and nothing, I allow the tension to ease out of me in the form of a long, slow exhale that reverberates around the whole passage.
Who's there?
Perhaps it's because of what has happened earlier, or how I've ended up here. Or maybe it's because of my training. But in spite of the panic and fear in that voice, I don't immediately answer. Instead, I pull my gun free from its holster and wordlessly draw closer to where the voice rings out once again. Afraid. Frantic. Weak.
I'm asking you a question! Who's there?
It's only after I've released the safety do I answer, while continuing my approach in a careful, steady pace.
I think I should be the one asking you that! Who are you? Show yourself!
I can't! I'm stuck in here!
Well, a ghost will definitely not be saying that. Or having a conversation like this. Or be stuck anywhere. And as if to prove her point, she extends a hand from one of the cells ahead and waves it. Then she pulls back, grips the iron bars, and rattles it lightly.
I can't get out! Can you help?
In 5 quick steps, I'm standing in front of the cell. And sure enough, a woman's inside. Slumped on the floor, holding the bars with shaking hands, clinging to it as if it's the only thing keeping her upright. And not just any woman.
You? McLaughlin?
Same one I met at G's 5 days ago. Smashed drunk and babbling her frustrations about her employers.
Holmes?
No, not McLaughlin. McCullough. Marianne McCullough. Famous interior designer extraordinaire. Not so extraordinary now, with how exhausted and feeble she looks, trapped in this jail cell of all things. Her breathing's shallow, and there's a paleness to her complexion. Sunken eyes, cracked lips, dry skin. All signs pointing to starvation and dehydration.
What? How long have you been stuck in here?
3 days? 4? I don't know. I have no idea anymore. I just fell in, and that woman, whatever. Can you get me out of here? Please.
In a moment. But here, go feed yourself first before you fall over.
I fished out an energy bar from my pocket and handed it to her. She's lucky I always have one on my person. For sudden emergencies or extended stakeouts. A little sugar to keep me going. Like any starving person, she wastes no time making a grab for it, unwrapping it straight away and taking a whole mouthfuls of it. Relief washes over her face on the first bite alone, although she's going to need more than that if what she said is true. But for the moment, it's enough to keep her alive. Good thing she seems to have the sense to prioritize survival over comfort, if the puddle in the corner of the cell indicates anything. Without water, the human body can only survive 3 days. No food, and I'll give it an average of 3 weeks, though even then, it won't be a pretty existence. Granted, some have survived longer than that, and she's still fortunate I found her when I did. Now to get her out. My bobby pins won't be of any use here. Not like I need it. Unlike the ones I have at the precinct, a simple barrel hinge holds the gates to the cell together. Even without any special tools, I'll be able to lift the door and free her. However, with how heavy it seems, I'll need a lever of some sort to help.
What are you looking for?
Some wood, a 2x4, I guess, a plank or a pipe, anything I can use as a lever. Wait here.
The hallway yields nothing but dust, dirt, and a few rusted chains scattered about. While I may find something in one of the open cells, I'm reluctant to check or even step in. Can't have another person trapped in here. However, McCullough ended up inside.
Well, there's no...
My head snaps back to her. McCullough extracts a wooden board from under the mess of hay and twine near her. Without prompting, she slips it through what little space there is between the bars. It's short, but appears thick and sturdy enough for my intended purpose upon closer inspection.
Good enough.
I hope. I get to work at once, anchoring the other end of the plank at the base of the door and applying ample force on the other end. It takes a bit of effort, no kidding about the heavy part. Still, a grunt, a gasp, a creep. And in a matter of minutes, with a little help from her on the other side, the door eventually lifts off its hinges. Falls on the ground with a loud, ugly, metallic thud. The sound of it puts elation on McCullough's face. She doesn't even ask for help. As soon as she can, she hastily crawls out of the prison she's accidentally found herself in. More than happy to get out of it, despite lacking the strength to stand firmly on her feet.
Thank you. Thank you so much. After the second day, I was so sure I was going to die in there. If you didn't show up... today. I don't even want to think about it.
How did you even end up here?
For a second, she appears hesitant, looking away and fumbling awkwardly with her fingers.
I was looking for something. Someone.
A contemplative expression flickers in her eyes. Something that's close to wistful. Like when a person remembers a memory she's fond of. It doesn't last too long, but it still leaves me with the impression that I've suddenly walked into something private. Something deeply personal for her. I'd rather not know.
So this whole tunnel, at the end of it, it leads right inside the mansion?
The wine cellar.
Right into the kitchen then.
There's a door of some sorts. I don't know. I think I pulled or pressed something somewhere. I was in a hurry. And I'm not sure if it'll open from this side. Hell, this
This place wasn't even in the floor plans!
She was not in a hurry. She was actually looking for it.
What do you mean?
Does that really matter now? We have to get out of here! People died in this place! Kids! Oh God! Kids! I could have shown you, but that thing won't turn back on anymore. It's like it only waited for me to see it before shutting down or something. How long has that thing even been in there? But those poor kids. All because of that thing.
Wait, hold on. What are you talking about right now?
The bloody letter! Ever since I've read that thing, since that day at the open house, she won't leave me. But it should be fine now, right? I broke it. I broke all of it. She shouldn't be able to do anything now.
You broke it on accident.
Mikala, one at a time.
It's all that fucking paper's fault! Oh God! Oh God! Dear Lord in St. Adelaide, bless those poor souls. We're not safe here. We need to leave. If we stay here any longer...
Mikalo!
Abruptly, she stops, looking back at me with wild, panic-stricken eyes. I've seen enough of it so many times these past few days. From my own friends, even. I know she's seen things. The kind that'll easily make any person go mad. And perhaps we slowly are. The longer this takes, the faster our descent into it becomes. Can't even tell which one's worse, death or this. Seems like no matter what we end up here with, there'll be something horrible waiting for us. I need to hurry.
Listen, I need to get inside this place, and you're more familiar with its layout. If you can help me...
What? No! Why would I go back? Are you sure you haven't gotten raving mad yet? An exit's right here.
And this business with the letter has to end at some point. Look, I know you're not very fond of Luke Wright.
Damn right I'm not. He can just go.
But are you really sure you want to leave him like this? And what about his wife?
It strikes a chord. She falters. Grows quiet as the tension lifts from her and her shoulders slump. I do understand her issues with this. In fact, she doesn't have to go with me, only to tell me enough info so I can figure it out on my own. She can always leave afterwards. Be done with this whole damn mansion and letter. The other end of this tunnel leads right into the forest. It'll provide ample cover for her to be able to slip off the property unnoticed. At the same time, she steels herself and squares her shoulders.
Just until the kitchens.
That's more than enough.
She nods, albeit weakly. Then, without another word, she gestures for me to follow, leading me further into the passage. Occasionally, she'll stop, find purchase on the wall to catch her breath. But throughout the short walk, she asks for neither a break nor assistance. Suppose that's something we have in common. Eventually, we get to a dead end. Although before I can question her on it, she begins palming for something on the wall, tracing her fingers along weathered edges of the bricks with a frown on her face.
It should be somewhere here, I think.
What the hell are you doing?
She holds up a hand, begging for my silence, and continues searching. Then, without warning, a few minutes later, something clicks. A portion of the wall shifts ajar to reveal a glimpse of another room. Bottles lining the walls, liquor barrels for aging. The wine cellar, indeed.
The ladder to the kitchen is on the far end of this room.
Surreal. This is all nothing but a surreal nightmare. But after everything, should this even surprise me? Ghosts, curses, hidden passages. Can't even bring myself to question the existence of this door anymore. Simply follow her to the undercroft without a single question, in spite of a number of them already swimming inside my head. As a kid, I used to crave for this kind of adventure. Stuff of mystery and detective novels. Daring chases, interesting cases to solve, suspects to put behind bars, justice to serve. I was blinded, I admit. Now I simply want this to be over. We leave the door open in case there's a need for a quick exit, especially after she mentions it's only by chance she was able to even open the door last time. No, she saw it, realized that there was a secret passageway, and then tricked Johans into letting her come down so that she could find it. Can't waste time finding the switch again. On the occasion something goes horribly wrong. There's There's bound to be. With me feeling this high-strung intense. Not even sure why I thought it'd be a good idea to enlist McCullough's help. Although she has been quite helpful so far. Can't shake off the horrible feeling something's going to happen to her if she stays with me. Even if I'm her safest bet, if she wants to get out of this place alive.
You really believe that, don't you?
Did you say something?
McCullough pauses mid-step, turning to me confused.
I didn't.
You sure? I just heard.
Don't you think I'll be the first person who'll know? Look, the ladder leading to the kitchen's up ahead. You might want to hurry. I just want to be done with this place.
See? You dragged another one.
This time, I'm sure. There really is a voice. Well, voices. Despite the looks of protest, McCullough shoots me. I find myself stopping and looking for it. Searching the immediate surroundings for the familiar form of the woman. I don't even have to venture too far from where I'm standing. Just an arm's length away from me, mirror shards litter the floor. And right on the biggest fragments, they speak. All singing the same mocking tune against my ears, letting it echo throughout the small undercroft. Murmurs and laughters, jeering, scoffing, deriding, lacing venom into every crevice in my head, taunting me.
You dragged another person into this, Ashton.
Into another one of your silly little problems.
All because you can't fix them on your own. You really haven't changed, have you? Some hero you are.
Useless.
Pathetic.
You're wrong.
My mistake lies in the first instance I've answered. Very second denial has slipped from my mouth. Their words have also seeped into my heart, allowing it to prod at and rouse my temper. Despite knowing they're merely doing this to goad me, each word, each syllable trickles into me, spurring the guilt I've hoped I've long buried.
Are we? Or is that simply what you've been telling yourself all this time? Something to make yourself feel better, perhaps?
You're the one who took that letter off Isabella's hand that day. You're the one who opened it.
How does it feel, I wonder? To know you're responsible for all of this?
What do you think I'm doing? Why do you think I'm still trying to fix this?
Oh, but you can't. It's already too late. And you know that. You know all of this is futile.
Just face it, Ashton Frey. You're a failure, and they are the ones who have to pay for it.
A badge and a gun, and you still can't protect your own friends. Can't even solve a case for an old man.
Can't even bring the right to justice.
Can't even keep his own family together. No wonder they left you. Before you do the same thing to them.
Mom and Dad are better off without little old you, aren't they? It's a good thing they had the sense.
Pitiful, isn't it? Some detective you are. Some friend you are. Some son you are. You might as well just throw that rank away. You're no use to people either way.
Shut it!
I hate this. I hate how this monster can easily get through to me. Every weakness, every insecurity it knows. To hear it said in my friend's voice, even more so. But what I hate above all of it is...
You know it's true, though.
All of it. It's why all you can do is tell us to shut up. You don't want to hear a single word, because you're already aware of it. You can't even admit it to yourself. Who's the coward now?
But no matter how hard you try, you're not gonna be able to say it anymore.
Shut it! Not a single word anymore!
In the end, your own incompetence will eventually lead to the deaths of everyone you care about.
It laughs, sharp and piercing. At its sound, something in me snaps. A rage hastily inferring, red filling my vision, and the next thing I know I'm raising my hand and... something grabs my wrist, followed by a buzz as another voice breaks through the haze.
Don't listen to it!
Fog from my mind lifts. Every sound, every noise returns to me, flooding my every senses. All at once, there's this deafening silence. Slowly, I become aware of my surroundings. Bottles of wine, barrels of liquor, the faint old scent of death and decay somewhere, and a hand holding onto my wrist, as if to keep me from hurting myself. In my hands, a shard. Blood drips from where it has cut my palm, trailing down my wrist until it disappears behind my sleeve. Not too deep. Negligible, even. There is a pain, however, a different kind. An ache somewhere else that stems not from the wound, but where every single word has hit. When I glance up at McCullough, she merely stares at me with wide, horrified eyes.
Don't listen to it! No matter what happens, don't do what it says! It's how it gets us.
My grip on the shard falters, but only after I nod and drop it entirely does she release her grip. Afterwards, she simply steps back and looks away, hugging her arms closer to herself. She breathes a sigh, heavy, perhaps weighted with her own guilt. What this monster might have used against her.
Come on, we're getting close.
She walks off without another comment, but there's worry in her as she gives the fragments one last glance. On the ground, they lie lifeless now. No more voices, no more insults. But even as I walk away, one whispered taunt continues to ring in my ears.
It's useless, Ashton Frey. You are going to die.
And you are going to die alone!
A fear. One that has been long kept in the darkest place of my heart. One that a small part of me wishes for. The trapdoor swings open without much fuss. And it isn't even locked. Probably left open for when Bright asks for some midnight snacks. I make sure the coast is clear, of course, before I pull myself and help McCullough up. That butler of theirs is nowhere to be seen. He's probably sleeping, attending to his master, or doing some extra late-night work before turning in for the night. Meanwhile, Bright won't touch anything to do with menial chores, not even with a 10-foot pole. It's next to impossible for him to linger here. No servants. No anyone. And just as easy as that, we're in. Gently, I close the hatch. If things go well, the safe path will be our way out. If our luck doesn't hold, that's not an option now, is it? I have people waiting for me. I really don't want to think that might happen. Sometimes it's best if you simply revel in the little victories. They're great blessings when everything else is going against you. And in a place like this, fraught with unknown dangers, it's a feeling that lasts only but a second. Suddenly, a sob. Ringing out from some distant part of the house, echoing through its empty halls. Beside me, slumped down on the ground, pale and heavily breathing, Kala immediately tenses. Her eyes go wide, and she grips the side of the counter with a force that might be enough to crack it if only she had the strength. As it is, she can barely stand. She hasn't fully recovered. Makes sense, after 3 or 4 days without proper food or water. And it's this weakness that puts the fear in her eyes. She's aware. If something happens, if there's a need to run, she won't be able to. She's a liability at this point.
Holmes, I really don't think going any further is a good idea. Look at this place. Everything seems fine. Nothing's off. Maybe we should just go? I really don't like the sound of that.
You really don't have to come with me. Just until the kitchen, yeah? We're already here. You've done your part. From here on, I'm going on my own.
Yes, I said that, but...
Can you even stand?
She doesn't answer.
You'll only be putting yourself in more danger if you follow after me. You have an easy way out of here. Stay here. Once you're okay, I need you to get yourself out of this place.
What? I'm not going to leave you!
Well, I'm not taking you with me either, lady. So it's here or out there.
You really are mad, aren't you?
Probably all will be, if no one fixes this little curse problem we have.
You think you'll find something in here? This is just a mansion, for God's sake!
Maybe. It's worth a shot. Besides, if what we're hearing right now says anything, I'd say scumbags.
Who?
Right. He might be knee-deep in trouble and he has no idea about it.
McCullough still appears as if she's about to argue. So instead of more words, I unholster my taser and hand it to her. It's a standard issue for every member of Luxborn police force. But it shouldn't take a genius to know how to aim and fire one. Even Isabella may just be able to use it without training. Yet Miss Interior Designer Extraordinaire stares at it as if I've just handed her something particularly nasty.
Listen, you want to wait? Fine. I'm leaving this with you. But if I don't come back here within 15 minutes, I want you to backtrack and get the hell out of here.
Are you daft, Holmes? I already told you!
In case something goes wrong, I need someone who can tell people what's going on. Who can tell my friends what might have happened here. They're at the crawl. You know the place, right?
I trail off, letting the meaning of my words hang in the air. I want to be optimistic about this, really. However, I'm going against something almost everyone can't quite understand. I'm just being realistic with my chances. McCullough seems to understand this as well after what I've said. Any sign of protest has already died from her tongue, and she simply looks at the taser quietly. After a moment, she just nods. Beyond the walls of this room, the cries continue to grow louder, and I take it as a sign to leave. Without another word, I slip out of the door. Like a siren call, her voice beckons. Finding out who that is seems a good place to start as any. I keep to the shadows for the most part. Not that there's any need to. The entire place just feels empty. Odd, when a house this big should have a large staff. You'd think there'd be at least one or two roaming around for some late night chores, or someone seeking out whoever's created this ruckus. There's none, however.
Should they have security posted inside as well?
Unless their security means the butler, though I doubt Scumbag's that sloppy. He loves his life more than anything. Probably more than his own wife. And the things he's done, he's bound to make more than an enemy or two. He's also the kind who'd do anything to keep himself safe. Alive.
I wonder what he'll say when he finds out that there's something not human living with him in his own house.
Potential dangers aside, being on my own grants me a greater degree of mobility, which I'm more comfortable with. Sure, I could have enlisted McCullough's help. Next to the people who owns this, she's probably the one who's most familiar with the mansion. But the cons of bringing her outweigh the pros. She's better off somewhere a quick exit's in sight. With no tag-along, I only have to worry about myself. Watch my back. Selfish, I know.
But necessary.
In the same manner this whole plan is, no matter how idiotic going into this is. Besides, I don't really need a guide when the house's layout is fairly simple. Almost mirrored with only a few modifications in the room. Although I've only been here once, I think I already have a good grasp of this place's ins and outs. As long as you can tell which is east and west, it shouldn't be hard to find my way around. After the dining room, the main foyer should be the next thing that greets me. Where the woman's cries are leading me. Honestly, after what happened outside, I'm not even sure I should be trusting what I'm hearing. But with the whole house somehow seemingly devoid of any of its inhabitants, I'm inclined to look into this. More than surviving this curse. A huge part of this is my training speaking.
I just hope this isn't a crime scene I'm walking into.
But nothing's ever that simple, is it? Not when you're dealing with the supernatural. Nope. Because as soon as my feet cross to the next room, something shifts. In a flash. Nearly without fanfare. It happens in the blink of an eye. I almost miss it. One moment, there's red. And the next, I'm standing alone in the foyer. For a brief instant, I pause, glancing wildly around the place, blinking twice as if my movements will spur the vision back. Yet, nothing. No blood dripping on the walls, none trailing down the stairs or pooling on the floor, no eyes watching my every movement. Only the same cries gradually growing in intensity the longer I dally, along with the voice. Desperate.
Where are you, Mother?
Pleading.
Mother, please. I don't want to be alone.
Coming from the same direction I've heard the cries from. Upstairs. The place is not entirely empty. Better question now is who. Definitely not Scumbag or the butler. I've yet to see hide or hair of them, and not knowing their whereabouts puts me on the edge. I have to be careful not to make any noise or be seen. Maybe the wife? Though one can't really tell if it's her, the way the walls echo her voice. Nevertheless, it pushes me to move. Taking almost 2 steps at a time, despite the sickening feeling that something's lurking behind every great shadow, every small corner I pass. As if the house has several eyes watching my every movement. As if something alive dwells behind the walls itself. I try to shake it off. But the uneasy sensation has already made its home at the pit of my stomach. Dread. And it only grows deeper the closer it gets to her. The relative emptiness of the place doesn't help either. Neither does the harsh wind battering the windows nor the sheets of rain pelting down the roof. For a fleeting second, I find myself wishing for Scumbag to simply show up. I don't get too far down into that train of thought. Abruptly, the cries stop. Replaced with,
Please. She's here. She's here, Mother. She's going to take me. She won't leave, Mother. I don't want to go with her. Tell her to go away. Mother! Mother, she's here! Help!
That can't be good. Adrenaline overcomes me in a rush. In no 2 heartbeats, my feet's already moving, before any sense can catch up or doubt creeps up to me. My hands ready at the holster as I hastily set off for the far side of the hall. One alarmed footstep after another, while struggling to keep that sense of panic at bay. The door lies ajar at the end, coming from the floor above.
She's going to hurt me! Help me!
I do not hesitate. Moving in, despite the lack of light, the steep stairs, or the thick layer of dust kicking up with my eyes, with my every step. I pause only a moment upon reaching the top. Then, without wasting a second, I push the door open. She sits in the middle of the room, shoulders hunched, shaking. Her hands cover her face as she weeps, oblivious to my presence. It's as if she's heard neither my footsteps nor the soft creaking of the door, continued undisturbed, like I'm standing in a time far removed from me. She doesn't even flinch when I call out to her.
Hey, are you alright?
Mother, I've done it, Mother. Take me with you, please. I can still hear her. She's here. Help me! Help me, please!
Belatedly, I notice the blood on her hands. If it's the same one drenching the whole attic, I'd rather not know. How the whole room has ended up like this is the least of my problems at the moment. Even the single human body doesn't have this much blood. So, bodies? The thought sends an unpleasant twinge in my stomach. Does Wright even know about this? He's bad news, alright, but this? This is beneath him. He'll definitely balk at the first sight of it. Anyone would. Yet the woman lingers here unmoved by the sight, letting her sobs fill the room, repeating the words over and over again like a prayer of salvation. To whom? The mess of parchment she's left on the floor? Just what the hell is happening?
Hey, lady, are you?
The rest of that question never makes it out. I don't even see it coming. Should have been more aware, on guard, really. But there's little I can do when a well-placed blow to the back of my knees makes me stumble. The momentum alone sends me reeling forward. I barely even register in my head that the woman's gone and the room's as normal as can be. Not about the pain suddenly shooting up my side when I hit the floor. I don't even get the chance to get my bearings back when a hard enough blow to the stomach causes me to buckle down and I land heavily on my knees. Gasping, I fumble wildly for my gun. Although before I'm able to level it and shoot, a hand grasps my wrist and twists. Hard. A gasp. A grunt. A cry of pain slips past my mouth. The gun falls to the ground with a thunk. As soon as it lands, a foot kicks it out of my reach and it slides uselessly under the bed. Agony suddenly explodes in my chin, jerking loose a sharp cry of pain and stars fill the edges of my vision. A brief moment of regret hits me for leaving my taser with McCullough when a piece of cloth closes around my neck. Without warning, my attacker pulls tight. I'm left gasping, choking, and clawing for air, blindly reaching behind me as I still try to fight him off and loosen the pressure on my neck. Except any sort of movement only causes him to pull a taunt.
My, so many rats scurrying about in this mansion lately.
Writes Butler. Shit.
Tell me, what did you do with the madam?
I have no idea what he's talking about. Did something happen to Hannah Wright?
Let go, you asshole.
Now, Dummkopf, you're in no position to be rude. Last time I checked, I'm not the one breaking into other people's homes. Now answer my question. What did you do with the madam?
Pain rings and resonates through my already sore body. Still, I manage to ride it out, spit a mutinous.
You. Keep that dirty mouth babbling and you're getting a knife in the kidney. I assure you it will be more painful than this.
He really doesn't need to threaten me by now. It's all too much to bear at this point. My lungs feel like they're burning with the lack of air. Dark spots begin to fill the edges of my vision. Ever so slowly, the world around me dims. My consciousness rapidly slips away from me, and without meaning to.
Get away from him!
Hearing that voice, it's as if I've been doused with a bucket full of ice, cold water. Familiar. Too familiar. And more importantly, it shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be able to hear. I shouldn't be hearing it here. She shouldn't be here. Immediately, my eyes snap open. And right there, right on the attic's doorway, stands Isabella of all people. A rolling pin in one hand and a standard issue police taser on the other. My taser. She must have borrowed it from McCullough. Where else could she have gotten one? I doubt she's ever used it. Hell, the way she holds it right now, this guy can easily disarm her in one hit. But there's something in her. In her eyes. Although there's a look of fear in them and her hands shake, she keeps the weapon trained and pointed at Scumbag's lackey. Untrained or not, she does not plan to leave here without putting up a fight, it seems. Admirable, really. But it's just not something we need right now. I need her to be away from here. I need her safe. The chances of that happening grow slim with every laughter that slips from him.
Oh, this is just getting better and better. The Bratwurst won't be pleased with the number of bodies we have to dispose of today, you know. Tell me, how many of you are there? So I can prepare the proper number of bags.
Damn it. What the fuck is going on? Why is she here in the first place? Did she follow after me? Who else came with her? Zach? Rebecca? Are they all here? Panic surges within me. She knows how bad the situation is, but does she really have to run in here and expose herself like this? Does she even know how to use a taser? For fuck's sake. More than worrying for my life, it's her I'm concerned about. Getting strangled, dying by choking isn't part of the plan. But her following me here isn't either. This is why I prefer to do things alone. This is why I'd rather be the only one to take the consequences. I don't even want to think about what this bastard might do to her after he's done with me. Though my voice comes off nearly a croak, I try to tell her as much. She has to leave. Stay far away from here and these people.
Don't! Damn it, Isabella! Get out of here!
Another bout of pain erupts in my side, cutting off my words. A cry of agony bursts from my mouth. I can taste blood on my tongue as I heave, attempting to get in as much air, despite the towel still coiled around my neck.
Ash?
You're going to lose air quickly that way, Dummkopf. Better keep it shut.
Get out! 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 Val!
Don't be stupid! I'm not leaving you here!
He laughs. Too cruel, too unforgiving. The way each note beats against my ears, in spite of the warmth in them, sends chills down my spine. This is a man whose hands have already been stained with blood before. He won't hesitate.
I'd follow his advice if I were you, little girl. What could you possibly do with a toy? Just hand it over and be on your way. It'll probably be too difficult for a little girl like you to use.
There's a moment of silence. Fuck, I can barely keep my eyes open. But in the next second, though, I still don't exactly understand what's happening. Isabella shouts. Not a cry of pain. Not a yell of panic. But one that's resolute. Firm. Perhaps in a tone that's leagues fiercer than any I've heard from her before.
Try me! Ashton, duck!
I do. More out of instinct and desire to survive. Closing my eyes before my mind can fully process what's going on. It all happens in a blur. Telltale sound of the taser being discharged resounds through the room. The air crackles. Something whizzes by, almost too close to my ear, followed by the thud of something blunt connecting solidly with another object. Next thing I know, the towel strangling me has started to loosen. I collapsed on the floor, dazed and gasping for air. From my peripheral, through the haze of blood rushing and sound slowly filtering back, the butler buckles. He spasms once more. Then, without much fuss, falls face first beside me, knocked unconscious by 50,000 volts of electricity and a fucking rolling pin. He'll be out for a while. I have no idea whether I should laugh or cry at that. Somewhere in front of me, my oxygen-deprived brain vaguely registers Isabella's form. She slumps on the floor, also breathing heavily. Right next to her trembling hands, both the taser and the rolling pin lie useless and forgotten, while the mood in the room eases. A long, gradual process of the tension lifting. For countless seconds we remain quiet, with only our short gasps and sighs to fill the silence, following the adrenaline ebb away, and both our breathing to slow. Not a true repose, by any means, but simply a brief respite. There's still the curse. We're still inside the mansion, in imminent danger. We still have no idea how to fix this. Outside, the rain seems to only intensify. Lightning flashes fleetingly somewhere, white and piercing, the sky rumbles. No rest for the wicked. I stir first, once recovered, having regained some semblance of sense and strength. Breathing still hurts, but it's bearable, as is moving. Although every small motion causes a wince, there will be bruising tomorrow I can manage. Retrieving my gun from under the bed is easy, but only with some effort am I able to drag an unconscious man to the far end of the room, snap one end of the handcuffs on his wrist while fastening the other on the bed frame. That should keep him restrained for a few hours in case he wakes up prematurely. All through this, Isabella stays quiet. In fact, she hasn't even moved. Her hands still shake, taking in long draws of breath while she stares vacantly in front of her, almost as if she's in shock. Perhaps she isn't even expecting any result, spurred only by some kind of desperation. Now it's sinking in. Unfortunately, we need to get moving. We don't have time to wait for everything to register in our heads. Kneeling in front of her, I give her a light shake.
Belle, we need to go. We can't stay here.
Slowly she turns, staring at me with wide eyes. Worry flickers briefly at them along with something ineffable. And then, without warning, she lifts a hand and slaps me right across the face. The sound of it cracks the air, shattering the silence like a fragile glass breaking. Despite the familiar rumble of thunder outside, it manages to ring louder above the storm. I don't even know what hit me, until my head has already snapped back and the cheek stings with her anger. And it is anger. In spite of the stillness and the lack of words afterwards. Not fuming, though. Never fuming. The kind that burns lightly and soundlessly. A frustration instead of a seething rage. One that ebbs just as quickly as it flows. Once the tide subsides, there's only that gleam in her eyes, warm, steadfast, and unflinching. Quietly, I brace myself for the truth underneath her gaze. Slips from her lips softly, nearly fading under the sound of the rain that's falling fast, if not for the weight in each of her words.
What is wrong with you?
Belle.
If Zach didn't slip up, no one would have known where you went.
Belle, one person knowing is enough. Any more than that, and...
You almost died! He could have suffocated you right then and there, and you could have died.
Nah, he would have been taken to the torture room.
I told Zach to give me 4 hours. That would have been enough time to...
It would have been too late. And by the time anyone ever finds out, you're already fertilizer.
She trails off, drags in one drawn breath after another. A brief lull as her frustration finally gives, dissolves into something more pensive and somber. Her shoulders droop, and though her voice rises hoarse and weary, her next words are only certainty.
You count too, you know?
Paradigm shift.
When I said that night, when I told you that I don't want to lose anyone anymore, that includes you. Alive. We're still here, Ash. You have us. You have Rebecca with you. Don't make her worry like that.
And once their meeting falls, roar. It does so with not with force or a dam breaking or a raging storm, but with the gentle, steady warmth of a hearth burning, an ember easing slowly, lightly, rising and giving, until all that's left is a truth, an understanding. Not alone. Never alone. It lingers, even as we both drift back into silence and her words take root, because in the gratitude that swells after is another warmth blooming, pleasant, welcoming, like finding home, like finding ourselves in the haze of a squall that has left us, creating something fragile yet immutable in both of us. It's in her eyes, the way she holds my gaze unwavering, and the way she carries herself despite sitting amidst the place she fears, in the way she keeps herself from trembling and falling apart, because fear is inconsequential when people she cares about are at risk. And change, she realizes that now, holds on to it. Another little thing, another small thing from her that may go unnoticed and pass by quickly, but will eventually amount to a lot of things. Despite myself, a small smile slips from my lips. Sometimes, between finding that letter and this moment, something has shifted in her. And if this is the old Isabella, should be hysterical. Probably with a lot of things and hiding behind people involved. She wouldn't even dare march in here, let alone to save anyone. Who would have thought?
Stop smiling like that, Ashton. I'm not done scolding you.
Come on, you're not even that scary.
Oh yeah? Let's see how tough you are after I tell Rebecca. Don't think I won't tell her. Oh, you are so dead when she finds out.
Abruptly, she stands up and gives me a light push. Not enough force to hurt, though I do end up sitting on my backside, laughing, amusement brimming from me. Then she sticks out her tongue and blows a raspberry, before quickly removing herself from the room. Something simply won't ever change, I suppose. The banter, the small smiles, and the quiet little moments that roar. It is strength enough to keep me going as I pick myself up from the floor and follow after her. Power still hasn't come back when we make our way back downstairs. Tricky considering the stairs to the attic are a bit old. One misstep and anyone might end up slipping and falling. You're lucky if that's all that'll happen to you. With the stairs this steep, broken neck is a likely outcome. Thankfully, Isabella's here to guide me through the darkness. She knows this place better than anyone. After all, in spite of all the misfortunes that it has brought us.
Careful, the floorboards over there aren't very sturdy.
Right on cue, the same board I'm stepping on creaks and suddenly breaks. The piece is falling somewhere with a dull thunk.
Oh shit. Scumbag wouldn't be too happy about that. Ow, my foot.
See? I told you so. You never listen to me.
They renovated the whole mansion. They can't even replace one tiny part of the house.
I know, right? That was literally my first complaint.
Why don't you file a complaint to BRC then? I'm sure they'd be thrilled to hear it. You know it was such a rushed job.
Outside, the winds have intensified. Even from here, I can hear the gusts battering the window in the attic. It makes you wonder why, up until now, the only person we've encountered from this house is the butler. Although, to some degree, that makes sense. He is in charge of running the place. Where are the other servants, though? In the storm, wouldn't anyone want to stay inside? Likely assumption is they're still asleep. The route I've taken doesn't really pass by the rooms they've likely assigned as the servants' quarters. However, they also have heightened security. I brushed it off earlier, thinking they'd be posted a lot closer to where the master's rooms are, but the second floor's devoid of anyone as well. It's as if every inhabitant of this place has suddenly disappeared. More importantly, where's that scumbag? I don't like this. I don't like this at all. The fact that we are right in the fucking middle of it makes me all the more queasy. And that feeling only escalates once we reach the landing and Isabella swings the door open. She pauses abruptly right in the doorway that I almost run into her. A look of confusion's in her as she looks wildly around the place, wordlessly taking in her surroundings. With each turn and shift of her eyes, her shoulders only grow tenser and a look of apprehension slowly dawns on her.
Isabella, what are you...
We aren't supposed to be here.
Sure enough, when I look up, we're standing right in the kitchen. Pots, pans, and all. In one corner, Zach and Rebecca watch as almost as surprised to see us. McCall is also with them. Of course, she didn't listen to me, even if I've already exceeded the 15 minutes we agreed on. Although color and strength seem to have already returned to her, enough for her to be able to stand unassisted. The empty plate on the corner appears to have played a part in that. Good news, I guess. As for the other two, however, relieved as I am that they had the sense to wait and not venture deeper into the mansion, I can't help but roll my eyes at both of them.
Zach, I said 4 hours.
I know, but Isabella asked and... Come on, bro, you know I ain't a very good liar.
That is very true.
And it didn't even occur to you to stop her?
We all tried, all right? She was out the door before we could say anything.
And how did you guys even get in here?
All three of them exchange a look. One that I absolutely do not like. In the end, it's Isabella who speaks up, albeit with a bit of a hesitation.
We heard someone scream, Ash. It led us here.
Without warning, the door behind us slams shut.
We need to get out of here.
Screw right. I need to get these people out of here. Lucky we're in the kitchen. We have 2 ways out, the back door and the cellar coffers. Except the hatch won't budge when I pull at it, and neither does the back door, as if something's locked it firmly on the other end. Zach also gives it a few tries, but even with the big guy's strength, it won't open. There's a long bout of silence in which we all simply look at each other, likely sharing the same thoughts. We're trapped. Something or someone has intentionally led us here. Fuck. In that same moment, once realization dawns in, something shifts again. Blood. In every nook and cranny, over every surface, and in every inch of the floor. This time, unlike the first one I'd seen, it remains, and gradually the whole room begins to reek of that familiar metallic scent. Sharp. Suffocating. Around us, every object, including the covers, had started to rattle as well. The sound from outside, foreboding, rumbling of thunder, and even the howling winds had begun to fade away, replaced by whispers, shouts, and cries of pain. Though inaudible, each beat and note bombards every crevice of my head with vague images and sounds. There's no time to make sense of everything, however. I'm already shouting, fueled purely by adrenaline, barking orders and making a break for the door that leads to the next room, the dining room. It should take us straight to the foyer where the main door is.
Move! Run!
Right in front of us, the mansion is starting to change, and we are in the thick of it. However, instead of the dining room like it's supposed to open to, the bedroom welcomes us instead. An image that lasts only but a second before blood begins to seep into the room, filtering into the walls, trickling from every nook and cranny. Everywhere, furniture shakes and every beam rattles. Before we can even step back from the horror gradually unfolding in front of us, the door slams shut. A loud thud, bringing a sense of dread and chill creeping up in each of us. Along with it is another realization. The whole place is reordering itself. And with the door closed tight behind us, showing no signs of budging, even though through sheer force, there's no choice but to go forward and hope to all gods that it leads us to the exit. There is a balcony! We should be able to get off through the balcony! Until then, running's the only thing we can do. Spurred by nothing but fear and a sense of desperation to live.
It's useless, Ashton Frey.
But with each room we pass, it only becomes apparent that the house has no intention of letting us leave. It lured us all here, and we've fallen for it. Now it's playing a little game with us. A sordid form of amusement. For who? Their laughter's the only thing we hear. With every hall we cross and door we slide open, the hope of finding an exit merely dwindles. The gun at my hip is useless here. I am useless here. Some fucking genius I am. Some fucking person to trust I am. All of those, they mean nothing in the face of the unknown.
You finally figured it out. Huh, Ashton Frey? Just give it up. All of them will eventually die because of you.
And you are going to die alone.
Shut your fucking mouth.
You know it's true, though.
All of it. It's why all you can do is tell us to shut up. You don't want to hear a single word, because you're already aware of it. You can't even admit it to yourself. Who's the coward now?
But no matter how hard you try, you're not gonna be able to save anyone.
The more gruesome the place turns, the bleaker our chances simply get. Wails and screams fill our ears as we pass by, words from a time and people long gone, laced with nothing but pure agony, calling out, reaching out to us. Their voice is almost too real, as if we're not the only ones trapped here, that there are others begging for release from this wretched place. Or maybe it's all just a show, a taste of what we will eventually be. Souls forever held captive in a never-ending nightmare.
Mother, I've done it, Mother. Take me with you, please. I still hear her. She's here. Help me! Help me, please!
Is this what the curse is? What it means for all of us? That the letter's not a morbid cry for help, but an invitation? A beckoning for unsuspecting souls to be dragged into this place's horrors? To be put under centuries and centuries of torment and agony? Suddenly dying a painful death seems preferable, more enticing than ending up here living a tortured existence. Or perhaps it's all the same. Still, hope warns its way into me. Not an unusual thing for someone like me. But after going through countless doors and corridors, every little sign of hope, I'm willing to cling to it. So long as it gets us all out of here. We're back in the dining room again. How long have we been running? How long since we've left the kitchen? At some point, we lost track of time. The windows barred tight and the sound lifting in the air, nothing but shouts and shrieks. It's impossible to tell. Not that it matters when an end is in sight. Shelves and furnishings bar the door, each stained with blood and gore, that if the situation isn't as desperate as it is, I'd find a different way out. But there's still a gap left at the topmost part of for a person to go through, so long as you use the shelves to climb.
It's an exit, all right.
From here, I can spy the familiar walls of the foyer. Relief. Only relief washes over me. Although my legs have been strained taut by all that running and every bone and muscle in my body ache, there's only an easing. A sense of tension living while energy back flows through me again at the sight of an end. No sooner, I'm leading us out of it. Zach helps McCullough first, assisting her up and through the gap before giving a hand to both Rebecca and Isabella. The moment the ladies are in, I nod for him to go through.
Go ahead. I'll watch your back.
Surprisingly, he does that without any protests. Not that there's any need to. Sometime after entering this room, this whole place has calmed down. No wails, no whispers, just a silence too deafening. But I'm not letting my guard down. Not until everyone's on the other end of this nightmare safe. For all I know, this may just be the calm before the storm. Without further incident, however, Zach makes it to the other side and I'm following after him. However odd this hush is, I turn my back from it and climb up. It's a tight fit, but I manage to squeeze myself in. The unease remains, though. Maybe it's the adrenaline still coursing through me, or how easy everything has been after living through that nightmare, fleeting as it is. But for some reason, something's still nagging at me. Call it a detective's instinct, or my training, or whatnot. I have a feeling that something's going to happen and catch us unprepared. Unconsciously, before dropping down on the better side of this dream, my hand shifts to the gun at my hip. Instinct has never failed me before. My feet haven't even landed firmly on the floor when...
Had I known there would be a party in my own home tonight, I would have opened a bloody bottle or two. People these days, in my own home. Can you believe it? I feel so left out.
A chill seeps into every vein in my body. All of a sudden, every ache, every pain returns to me tenfold, and my knees threaten to buckle at the sound of his voice. Though it appears friendly, I know it's anything but. One does not spend investigating a man like him for over a year and holding a grudge against him for even longer without knowing everything about him. His quirks, his habits. I'm familiar with all of them. And right now, Luke fucking Wright is beyond pissed. Shifting my gaze upwards is nearly too painful, knowing the danger. Not to me, but to those who've been lured in here by the curse. The handgun catches my eyes first, next to that smarmy smile on his face, while he holds McCullough, Zach, Rebecca, and Isabella at gunpoint. Sight enough to lodge a painful thorn up my throat. I've been too complacent, too focused on other things that I've completely set aside the fact that Scumbag will not be pleased to see us here without knowing our reasons. But even with those good intentions, curses, and ghost apparitions aside, we're still trespassing in his home. Question is, if he's even aware that the whole of his household has somehow disappeared and he might be the only one here. Likely not. Fuck. Even with people he knows among the crowd, there's a significant effort in him not simply shooting everyone in sight.
And really, Daisy, even you, what would Kylie say?
Luke, this isn't what you're thinking. You have to listen to us. There's something going on here.
Well, obviously, why else would people be trespassing in my home? What about little Lily over there, then? What's your excuse? Checking back if your clients are doing okay? Is that it? Is this what this is? Oh, we're doing good, by the way.
Sir, please.
Oh, please what?
Becca's right, sir. We need to get out of this place. You need to leave.
Not a good enough excuse, darling. You people are the ones who need to get out of my sight. Don't worry, I might consider pressing lighter charges for the woman. Can't say the same for the rest of you. But really now, I swear the people of this city need to be taught the meaning of privacy. This is how you want to start the week. Why don't we just go with a bloody massacre if we want to surprise people in their homes, huh?
Casually, he waves the handgun at them as if it's just a mere toy and his words are no threat. Safety's off on his. Nothing stopping him from pushing through with his words. Call me paranoid, but at the slight gesture, I draw my own and level it at him. Finger on the trigger and ready to release the safety catch in case things go south. He is quick to train his own on me, though. Just like that, we're at a standstill.
Now, Feathers. Manners. You're in no position to be pointing that gun at people.
Why don't you put yours down first, and then we'll talk about manners.
Oh, he talks back. The gall! You know, your kind pisses me off so much.
Shooting him right now would be so worth it. The way he stares at me like I'm a damn pest. But this isn't what I've come here for. I'm not a murderer. As much as I loathe him, I'm not the kind who will kill people in cold blood for my own gain or amusement. The law will bring him what he deserves one of these days. At the moment, however, we're all in the same boat with this curse, and he needs to understand that. The longer we stand here, the more time we're wasting and losing. Something we don't have much time of. But how can I convince him? This scum is so full of himself, prefers to hear the sound of his own voice more than those of the people around him, no matter how much sense they make. Probably the only way I can make him listen is if I beg. No way in hell that's happening. Maybe I should eliminate the immediate danger first and disarm him. So we're gonna save here, because this choice will lead into another achievement that I could potentially get, I think. based on one of the videos that I did earlier. I'm going to save it on a separate slot so I know which one to save over. So we are going to beg him to listen. My life's not the only one at risk here, though. There's Zach. There's Rebecca. There's Isabella. Bacala's here as well. We're all unknowing victims to this fucking curse. I'm in no position to pick who to save and who I should simply let die. I suppose my pride can take a few hits, and I can set aside my beef with this asshole. Taking a deep breath, slowly, I lower my pistol. Though still on the edge and ready in case he does something, I do my best to assume a less aggressive stance.
Listen, right. I need you to.
You broke into my house, and somehow, you expect me to listen like a good little boy. Are you a bit touched in the head, Feathers? I'm not the one breaking laws here.
Look here, fucker. If I wanted you dead, I could have done it so many times already. In fact, I can easily shoot you down right here, right now. And you won't be able to do a damn thing, even with that gun.
Suddenly he laughs, almost howling in fact. Like I've just told him the best joke he's heard all of his life. The only thing missing is for him to keel over and start rolling around the floor, all while I do my best not to sock him with the sorry end of my pistol.
You have guts, Feathers. You have guts. Did you hear what you just told me? You've just threatened me inside my own house. My own home. You know what I'm thinking right now? In another lifetime, we would have probably gotten along well.
He's right on that, at least. I might have ended up like him if I didn't have Professor Andrew, Rebecca, Zach, or Isabella. Well mistaken, it would have been too late for me. With his laughter rings all of those possibilities I could have lived, but have never been given the choice. All because I have other people with me. People who care. A sobering realization. But not so much. But suddenly his chuckling stops, and in 2 heartbeats he marches towards me, grabs the collar, and aims the gun right at my head.
Ashton! Luke, no!
Hey, now you two, I'm sure we can all talk about this first.
At this distance, a slight flick of that finger on the trigger will be enough to do more than kill me.
What is it that you people really want with me? This is the second time this week, and I'm really getting weary of this little game. Did the NCA send you to apprehend me, or has somebody paid you off to kill me? Which one is it, Feathers? Mind you, my arm's getting tired. Better answer quick if you don't want to beat the business end of this gun.
I keep my eyes trained on him, in spite of the huge threat he poses right now. Because if there's anything people like him, like us, prefer, it's honesty. You don't give that impression without keeping a solid eye contact.
I'm not with NCA. I'm just here to help. There's something else in this house, and we're all in danger. You have to believe me, right? You need to let us go. You need to get out of here before it's too late. If you want to keep your sorry ass alive, you'll listen to people with more brain cells than you.
Why, you insolent!
His finger moves. But I'm prepared. My hand ready to reach up, disarm him, and knock him out. If I have to drag him out of this place unconscious to keep him from suffering the fates of every other person who's died from this curse, then so be it. However, before either of us can fire a shot or tackle the other to the ground, another voice echoes throughout the foyer. A small little thing compared to the storm raging outside. It rings above us. It rings above it, nevertheless causing all of us to stop and turn. At the top of the staircase, Hannah Wright stands. To make matters worse, that thing behind her, menacing, a rotting hand wrapped firmly around her neck. She looks like death. Pale and shaky, eyes red with tears. We nearly don't hear her as she pleads.
Luke, help me. Please.
Outside, another streak of lightning flashes and a clap of thunder ripples across the sky. It's as if the whole thing can't get any more foobar than it already is. In death's grip.